It turns out the war to end all wars was not the war to end all wars. There was actually another one. We're going to be reacting to World War II from OverSimplified today, which is one of my favorite history-related YouTube channels. Probably one of the best on the internet. Makes fantastic videos. Just uploaded a new series on the Second Punic War, which you definitely should go and watch after you've seen this reaction, of course. We're going to check this one out right now. I'm probably going to pause a lot during this because I'm just a big history enjoyer. I like talking about things, like saying words.
By Skillshare.
I love Skillshare because they support my favorite YouTubers.
Churchill was a man with many talents. He was an artist, a butterfly enthusiast, and he had an unpublished manuscript about aliens.
But he was not good at invading Gallipoli.
Clearly, he was a man with an insatiable thirst for knowledge. Maybe he could have loaded up his computer and logged onto Skillshare.
Maybe he could.
Learning community with
I didn't realize the ad was going to be the start of the video. I thought it was going to be later on.
19,000 classes in design, business, technology, and more. Perhaps he was considering a side career in fashion, but didn't know where to start. On Skillshare,
where do I start?
Courses in fashion design and garment construction.
Oh, he looks so good.
If he wanted to learn app design, improve photography, or just how to make a really good quesadilla, he would have
that looks delicious.
For all of these and more on Skillshare. Skillshare gives you access to high-quality classes taught by genuine experts working in their field.
Just look at all those.
Animation, and I was genuinely blown away by the number of really useful courses available to me. Like this
so many
full of tips and tricks for creating vector art, or this one for creating character walk cycles.
It's pretty cute.
Subscription, Skillshare is under $10 a month, and if you'd like to try it first, then I've got a deal just for oversimplified viewers. The first 1,000 people to use this link.
Okay, it's been 5 years. I don't think we can still get this deal.
Found in the description. We'll get there.
This is a little bit of an old ads, but I never skip the ads. I never skip the ads when I react to a video because I feel like it's disrespectful since I'm reacting to their video. I feel like I need to give their sponsor a little bit more juice, even though I'm not really giving them any juice. This video has 89 million views, but I just think it's disrespectful to skip the ad. That's why I keep those in.
A young man by the name of Benito Mussolini moves from Italy to Switzerland to avoid military service. He gets big into socialism, working for trade unions, writing for...
Wait, Mussolini skipped out on military service and then is like, oh, let's join World War II when he becomes the guy of Italy.
Socialist newspapers, advocating a violent overthrow of European monarchies, the whole shebang. This gets him in a bit of trouble with the Swiss police, so he gets arrested, sent back to Italy, set free, returns to Switzerland, is arrested again, goes back to Italy again, completes his military service after previously avoiding it, and then...
he finally went, okay.
After a brief stint as an elementary school teacher,
there's no way he was a school teacher. I wouldn't let this man anywhere near kids.
Finally returns to work as an avid socialist.
There's no way you hire this man as a school teacher.
His speeches and journalistic abilities made him famous among Italian socialists. He was anti-war, so when Italy colonized Libya in
He's anti-war?
He rioted and got arrested. Then World War I came along, and once again he protested Italy's involvement. But then he thought, wait a minute, this war could bring about the social climate needed to overthrow European monarchies and bring about the socialist revolution everywhere. And
damn, he has some crazy ideas.
Suddenly he was pro-war, but his fellow socialists didn't like his new pro-war stance, so they kicked him out of the party. So then he said,
no, the war is good so we can kill the kings.
You know what? I'm done with socialism. We need something new, not based on class divisions tearing us apart, but based on unity through nationality. We'll conquer the Mediterranean and reunite all Italian peoples, just like the days of the Roman Empire.
And he had some big dreams. Let me be very clear on this. He had some big dreams. Now, the actions and what he was actually able to achieve, he had some big dreams, though, and that's the main thing.
I'll call it fascismo, and it will guide the Italian nation to greatness.
Fascismo. Something a little bit close to a word that maybe has some, interesting word to choose there.
That's all well and good, Mr. Mussolini, but what kind of haircut am I giving you? Let's go with...
Let's go with bald. Did he really just go... Oh, jeez. Hey, man. Oh, God, what? His eyes are insane. He's got the crazy eyes. Who let this man in power? He literally has the crazy eyes. I love these videos, man. They're so good. Oh, I hate World War II. It's so bad. Like, it morally.
On the winner's side in World War I, and they hoped they were going to get a lot out of it, but in the end, they only got a little, and they felt...
Okay, well, you still got something, though. You don't have to go for the entire coastline. It's a bit greedy. You really need the entire coastline? Let some other countries have some beach for once.
Cheated. On top of that, a bad economy and weak governments meant that the Italian people were a little unhappy. So when Mussolini came along and said that he could fix everything, his fascist movement gained a lot of support. In 1922, he went to the king and said, "Make me prime minister, or I'll make me prime minister." And the
very interesting deal that you propositioned here. I wonder what I shall pick.
He said, "You and what army?" this army.
Oh no, his army
Fair
of bald
enough.
people.
Then he went about establishing a dictatorship with himself at its center. Europe had its first fascist dictator. Next up, Germany.
You know, they never try to establish a dictatorship with someone else at the center. It always has to be them. They're always so selfish with their dictatorships.
Germany had been on the loser's side, and they got absolutely wrecked by the Treaty of Versailles. They lost territory, had to demilitarize the Rhineland, had to reduce their army to just 100,000 men, couldn't have an air force, had to pay the Allies a huge amount of money.
Okay, air forces in World War II times was basically some paper planes that you throw at the enemy.
That it didn't have, and a new
Or World War I times.
rule was established that every Englishman withheld the right to walk into the center of Berlin, pick out any German they wanted, and spank the hell out of them.
I don't know. I don't think that's real.
That last one up, but it helps you understand how all this felt to Germans. On top of that, a bad economy and weak governments meant that when a small angry man with a silly mustache
It is crazy how a bad economy and weak governance just continuously leads to fascism.
came along and said that he could fix everything, the German people loved it. Hitler had been a soldier during World War I, and he was crazy patriotic, and nobody was madder than him.
Dude, someone couldn't have just like dropped just one really well-aimed bomb. It could have really just sorted the whole situation out. Just one guy. That's all it would have just one guy. That's all it would have taken.
Germany's humiliation. He helped start a new political party, and in 1923 attempted a march on Munich with his boys. And then he got arrested. But his popularity grew, and in 1933, the president made him chancellor. He believed he was Germany's great destined savior, and he went full megalomaniac, establishing a dictatorship with himself at its center. Europe had fascist dictator number 2. Hitler and Mussolini had a lot of the same ideas, but
Radical nationalism, totalitarianism, violence and militarism, anti-democratic, anti-socialist, extremely racist. Oh, but it's okay because Mussolini is only quite racist. So chalk one up to Mussolini. Big dub for him. He's only moderately racist.
more importantly, they had the same enemies, and they started to get along. Anyone else want to be friends? Franco? No? You good? I do. Who's that? It's Japan, and they've taken over northern China. Let's rewind a bit.
Not many people talking about the horrible things that Japan did in China. Actually, that's not true. A lot of people talk about it, but usually when World War II is discussed, it's not a big topic of conversation because, you know, Europe and America and all that, they went to war against Japan in the Pacific. Not a whole lot to chat about what happened in China.
Japan had isolated itself from the rest of the world for over 200 years until the Americans showed up and said, you're going to trade with us and you're going to like it. Then the Western powers imposed a bunch of unequal treaties, meaning Japan's economy was bust. They also had no natural resources, so
And they didn't have anime yet, which was pretty bad.
decided to go get some. They went to war with China to gain a sphere of influence over Korea, and they took a bunch of China's stuff. But then the West said, hey, cut that out. And since Japan couldn't take on the West, they said, okay, I guess we'll just go home. Wait a minute.
Oh, we're gonna keep Korea. Whoa!
Taking advantage of a weakened China and setting up spheres of influence. But I was the one who weakened them. We know. And you guys didn't let me have anything. We know. That seems unfair.
Well, yeah, because they're the big, strong guys with their big, strong muscles. That's all that matters in this land.
We don't think so. Okay, see ya. So Japan
Bye-bye.
thought, screw this, and went to war with Russia, and stunned everyone by actually winning. Then they fully annexed Korea, but they didn't stop there. In World War I, they took Germany's colonies and islands in Asia. And then in an incident that was maybe staged by the Japanese army, a bomb blew up a Japanese train in Manchuria, giving them an excuse to launch an invasion and take over. So here's the situation.
It's always nice to have an excuse, right? Oh no, our train. I guess we have to invade China now. Like we have to, guys. Like I mean, it'd be weird if we didn't at this point. It'd be weird if we didn't invade China now because we really like trains a lot.
Nazi Germany, Fascist Italy, and Japan all believe they're racially superior, all feel hostility towards the Allies, and all want to militarize and take over more stuff. And so they did. Let's start with Germany. Hitler hated the Treaty of Versailles, and now he was ready to begin undoing it. In complete violation of the treaty, the first Luftwaffe squadrons were set up, conscription was introduced, and he pimped up his army. The Allies
Oh, they have the train. They have the bomb train. The big train. The big mortar train. Those trains are cool.
did nothing. Then Hitler sent his army back into the demilitarized Rhineland, giving orders to immediately retreat if the Allies showed up. The Allies did nothing. With his military re-strengthened, he could now move on to step 2. He wanted to rapidly increase the Aryan population, and to do so, he needed Lebensraum. Or in other words, he would have to take over the world. But for now,
You don't need that much space. Do you know how big a country is? You have so much space in a country. Just look outside. There's so much space everywhere, even in the small countries. Like, the world's a big place. You don't need to have the entire world. You don't even need to have all of Europe. You don't even need to have Poland. You've got so much space. Germany's like a big place.
now, a good portion of Europe would do, and he began eyeing up his neighbors. The Allies finally started to get worried, so they implemented a fairly useless diplomatic strategy called appeasement, and it went a little something like this.
It's just give him whatever he wants. Like, hey man, you want something? It's
Hitler
fine.
would say, I want that thing. And the Allies would say, you can't have that thing. Okay, you can have that thing, but no more.
No more.
I want that thing.
Yep.
And repeat. In 1938, Hitler's
Is insane. They're just like, oh man, I mean, I guess we don't want to start we don't want to start any conflict, so we just let them do whatever they want, because they'll stop eventually, right? I mean, they'll get to a certain point. There's just a couple of countries, and they're like not big countries, so we'll just let him do his thing, and you'll stop. You'll stop after that one. Okay, he wants one more country. He wants one more country, then he's gonna stop, because he has so many countries now. So why would you need any more countries? And then he'll stop, right?
He marched into Austria and just took it with no resistance. Boom, this is Germany now. Next, he demanded to be given the Sudetenland, an area of Czechoslovakia with many ethnic Germans. The Allies held a meeting with Hitler in Munich and said, look, we're going to give you what... Hang on. This meeting is about my territory. Shouldn't I come to the meeting too?
No.
Anyway,
what do you
we're
mean?
going to give you what you want.
This is like what happened in the Middle East after World War II as well. They started dividing up the Middle East, and everyone was like, hey, like, we live here. Should we not get like a say in this maybe? And Britain's just like, what? No. Why would you have a say? Are you dumb? No, of course not.
Really? Yeah. Just
Yeah,
like that? Yep.
You just have it.
What's the catch? Just sign this piece of paper promising you won't invade the rest of Czechoslovakia.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, guys, I promise. And he was so good with his promises too. He really promised things, and he totally stood by
A
it.
piece of paper in the air, declaring crisis to be averted and the continuation of world peace. And we built a statue of Chamberlain in his honor. And every day on the 30th of September, we celebrate Chamberlain Day. Hitler's invading
And it was so good.
the rest of Czechoslovakia.
Oh no, really?
What? He's invading the rest of Czechoslovakia. Oh.
That's
lied to me.
That's a bit of
What
an
do you
issue.
expect? I'm Hitler. Not
Yeah,
to
I
be
mean, it's
outdone, Mussolini
fair.
also wanted to get in on the action. He thought to himself, isn't there a not yet colonized nation somewhere which is so underdeveloped that the people would be defending themselves against our tanks with literal bows and arrows and wooden spears? Oh, there
Just
is?
have that? Oh, that's it. Oh my god, that's a lot. Damn, that's a lot of space. Jesus Christ, that's a lot of space.
Fantastic. And so
Yeah, we'll
he
just
took it.
do a
Italy
little bit
also wanted
invading.
to control the entrance to the Adriatic Sea, so they occupied Albania. Then, in another incident which was maybe staged by the Japanese, gunfire was exchanged by Japanese and Chinese troops at the Marco Polo Bridge, and the Japanese launched yet another invasion.
Wait, Marco Polo, wasn't that the guy that went to... There's a show based on him. I watched the show. It's on Netflix. It was the guy who went to hang out with the Khans, but was he Italian? The Silk Road? Marco Polo was still alive then? He must be so upset.
Against China.
I don't like Hitler. That's a very brave stance to take.
They swept through Beijing and Shanghai, and then advanced through the Yangtze Valley to China's then capital, Nanking. It was here that saw the war.
Oh, this is the bad stuff. Like, this is awful. When I first heard about this, I genuinely thought there's no way this could be true. There's no way. It's so horrific.
Japan's shocking atrocities committed against the Chinese people.
It was
Back in Europe,
really,
Germany
really
and
awful.
Italy made their relationship status official by signing the Pact of Steel. Then, Hitler turned his eyes towards Poland and the hated Polish corridor, splitting Germany in two. At this point, the Allies really had to put their foot down.
It is weird that there's just a piece of Germany just split off, just hanging out there. It's just there. Isn't it the same thing with Russia right now? There's just like a small piece of Russia in Eastern Europe that's just chilling there, separate completely from the Russian mainland.
And they warned him that an invasion of Poland would mean war. Hitler had planned to continue his advance eastward, but he didn't want to end up fighting a war on two fronts. So for now, he made an alliance with Stalin, saying,
Yes, a war on two fronts would be a silly thing to do.
how about we both
It's the same place? Oh my god, what? Really?
invade Poland and split it between the two of us, and I definitely won't not refrain from not betraying you sometime in the future.
No, they're going to be best friends
Sounds
forever. They're best friends, and they're going to
good.
kiss.
This
They're
new
gonna
alliance
kiss
stunned the
forever.
West. On the 1st of September 1939, German troops entered Poland, and Britain and France declared war on Germany.
Because at this point, they're just like, oh, for Jesus Christ, man. We have to now. You couldn't stop invading, and now we have to declare war on you, man. You did. You brought this on yourself. Well, it's like you're doing a war on two fronts. Well, now you got one. Congrats, dude.
The Poles fought hard, but they were no match for the two giants crashing down on them from either side.
Yeah, I'm going to say this is mean. Like, both in Germany and Russia invading Poland at the same time. That's just overkill. Why would you, that's a little too much, guys.
Then came a period
Not cool.
known as the Phony War, where everyone just sort of sat around not doing much. The French had launched a small invasion into the Saarland, but they maintained mostly defensive positions, and after a while decided to just turn around and call it a day. Speaking of France, the French were still super proud of their victory in World War I, and they hadn't really moved on from it. They still used horses, they dispatched messages by motorbike instead of using radio, orders from the commander were usually pretty vague, and the troops were rarely inspected. They built a line of defenses along their German border, but didn't bother extending it all the way to the Channel, and they wouldn't
Well, that's okay because they'd have to go through Belgium in order to invade France. And it's not like Germany has ever gone through Belgium to invade France before. It's probably not going to happen and we're probably going to be
Launch
fine.
artillery strikes against Germany out of fear of being retaliated against. In a war, they didn't want to attack the enemy. And at first the UK wasn't much better. Chamberlain still naively hoped that the war could be ended diplomatically. Instead of bombing raids, the RAF dropped propaganda leaflets over German cities, which one air marshal said likely did nothing but provide the continent with toilet paper for the duration of the war.
And they're like, oh, wait, we can't speak English, guys. We speak German in Germany. No, I know they dropped it in Germany. They dropped it in German. I know.
Also only sent 200,000 men to France, while the French had mobilized millions. Both Britain and France wanted to avoid a repeat of the First World War, and so they wanted to keep the war as far from home as possible. So they turned their eyes north, towards Norway. Neutral Sweden
Poor little Norway just chilling.
was exporting iron ore to Germany through neutral Norway. So the Allies asked them if they could please stop exporting iron ore to Germany, but this request was refused. Then the Soviet Union attacked Finland. So the Allies said,
And Finland did so good against Russia. Finland did great against Russia. They really, really tried their absolute best. And they really gave Russia a little bit of a licking. There was that one sniper guy. Yeah, Finland's big ups to Finland. They did a good job.
how about we land troops in Norway and move them across Sweden to go help out your good pal Finland, and along the way maybe take control of all your airfields. But Norway and Sweden still
They still lost? Well, dude, they had like 0.5% of the manpower and industrial capability that Russia had at the time. They went crazy. For what they had, they went crazy with it.
no. So the UK mined the waters around Norway to force any transport ships into international waters, and they also attacked a German tanker they found in the area. Hitler realized what the Allies were up to, and he quickly moved to secure his supply of iron ore. He launched an invasion through Denmark into Norway. The Allies rushed to land troops at key ports along the coast, but Germany had taken
Yeah, see, this should have stopped exporting it. I suppose that's what they were scared of. Norway's like, if we stop, then they're going to invade us. And then they invaded
control of
regardless.
Norway's airfields, and their air superiority decided the fight. The Allies had to retreat. After this slightly embarrassing failure, Chamberlain resigned and was replaced with Winston Churchill, who had a slightly different approach to dealing with the Germans. Hitler's overall strategy was similar to Germany's First World War strategy. Attack France, defeat France, knocking out the UK in the process, then turn on the Soviet Union and win the war. During the phony war, the Allies had given Hitler time to prepare his forces. Now, he was ready to attack. The Allies had wanted to place troops in Belgium, but Belgium had refused, and in a
Oh, man, I bet they regret that now, because,
move that surprised pretty much no one, Hitler launched an invasion to get around France's defenses.
No, they went through Belgium? No, there's no way. There's no way they went through Belgium. No, they wouldn't do the same thing twice, would
The
they?
Allies charged into Belgium at full speed to meet the German invasion head-on, and it looked like a repeat of the First World War was coming. But this time, Hitler had a trick up his sleeve. Blitzkrieg. As the Germans advanced, they sent thousands of refugees westward, slowing down the Allies. Then, to the south, the French had left the Ardennes, an area full of hills and forests, pretty underdefended, because they thought it was naturally impenetrable. Well, the Germans were about to penetrate it with everything they had. They smashed 50 Wehrmacht divisions through and encircled the Allied armies at lightning speed.
Yeah, this was probably the biggest L. I mean, the World War II is massive and there's a lot of things that happen, but man, the Allies did not start off the war on a good footing. Like, Germany really just dominated in most ways. And it's not to say that France and Britain were necessarily like doing a bad job, or they didn't fight hard enough, because France did fight hard enough. I will say, I think it's time that we relook at the history. We're not going to say France surrender, France L over and over again, because the French fought pretty hard, especially at Dunkirk, to get the British soldiers away. They fought pretty hard. The individual French soldiers, they fought hard and they tried hard. And this is coming from a British man. You know, usually we're like, oh, wow, France L all the time. France, not a good place. France bad. But no, they tried their best and they did what they could. I mean, at least the individual French soldiers, right? But man, the Allies were taking some big L's at this point in the war. And it was looking pretty bad.
The best of the Allied forces were now trapped. The Germans squeezed in from all sides, taking out France's best armies and nearly wiping out the British too. But they managed to make a desperate last-minute escape at Dunkirk, with British civilian ships even making the perilous journey to bring their young men home.
So things are not looking good, guys. Things are looking pretty bad. I wonder what's going to happen.
Most of the French forces
It looks like Germany might have the upper hand here. They might win.
The Germans breezed through, taking Paris, and France fell. What the Germans couldn't do in World War I, Hitler had done just like that.
Oh, he's going to be feeling so good. That little dickhead, that little fucking rat weasel, he's going to be feeling so good right now. sitting in his Berlin palace, like, ooh, we have France now. Oh my goodness, we're doing so good.
Hitler hoped that with the fall of France, the UK would also lose hope and sue for peace. But quite annoyingly, it didn't, and he needed to secure the Western Front, so he tried to force them into submission with mind games. The UK were now all alone, and Hitler wanted to emphasize that. First of all,
well, technically, oh no, Russia wasn't in the war yet. That's right. Damn. I mean, this is looking pretty bad. If you just look at the map's not looking so good right now.
Before France fell, Italy finally declared war on the Allies, making the UK's situation even worse. Next, instead of just occupying all of France, Hitler occupied the coastal areas for defense, but allowed France to continue its existence as a German puppet state. This way, it looked like the UK's old ally had decided to switch sides. Hitler also hoped that the UK wouldn't attack any of her old allies' navy bases or colonies in Africa, giving Hitler an extra line of defense to the south. But the UK made sure to respond to this by sailing down to France's navy base in Algeria and wrecking a bunch of ships. So have at it. Hitler then began laying down plans for an
It's a really long way to go out of your way just to sink some ships. But you know what? Gotta be done.
invasion of Great Britain before German troops.
I don't know. I'm not really a historian, so I have really no place to say anything on this matter. But I don't think that Germany could have successfully invaded Britain. Maybe I'm just feeling a little bit copium right now because I'm a British person. I don't really feel too much national respect for the country as a whole. But I don't think they could have done it. I don't think they could have successfully done it.
Could land on British soil. He would first need air and naval superiority across the Channel. Waves of German bombers came, while the completely outnumbered RAF worked bravely around the clock in an attempt to quell the German attacks. At first, the Luftwaffe targeted British ports and coastal facilities. Then it attacked RAF bases, crippling the RAF's ability to defend the nation. And it looked like Hitler's Great British Invasion was coming. But then, Churchill ordered a small, pretty insignificant bombing raid over Berlin. It didn't do much damage, but Hitler was furious, and he immediately ordered
He's like, oh, I'm so mad!
the Luftwaffe to refocus its attacks on civilian targets in London.
Oh, come on, man. Seriously? Like, you're really gonna do
Children
that?
were sent off to the countryside, away from their parents to avoid danger.
Oh man, I used to watch a show. I think I watched a TV show or a movie about this. It was this exact thing. It was made like 30 years after the war had ended, and it was about this child that got sent off into the countryside and had to live with this grouchy, crotchety old man. And together, through living with each other, they learned the power of love and friendship. But when the kid went back to London, and no, it was not Narnia. It was not Narnia. That has a similar story. When the kid ended up going back to London, I think that the mom was like super abusive towards him, and the kid was like, "Oh man, I want to go back to the crotchety old man because like he was nice to me and he's awesome." But the mom had another kid, so there was a brother in the situation. What am I fucking talking about? It was good. Was it called Goodnight, Mr. Tom? Dude, this was it. Oh my god, this was literally it. Made in it was 1998. Wow. It was such a good, it was a movie. Dude, it was such a good movie, and it was a really good display of something that you wouldn't hear about often, which is how the kids' lives were affected when they were evacuated to the rural areas so they wouldn't get blown up by German air raids. And it was really good. Man, this is really taking me back. I'm sorry to go on a little bit of a tangent here, but I think this is like really important to understand like how the whole evacuation thing went.
Frequent trips to air raid shelters became a daily occurrence, but British morale held firm. Smiling, knitting, lounging casually, these people have balls of steel. This refocusing on London also gave the RAF breathing space to reorganize. So
yeah, literally, you just ask someone in this time period, like, you okay, man? Like, well, we're just hanging on. We're just hanging on until that we get those Germans. Well, when we get those Germans, we'll come back out and we'll have our houses again. We'll be able to go outside again. But for now, we have to ration our eggs and butter. But we're hanging on. We're having a jolly good time of it. We're going to knit some things too.
Hitler kind of shot himself in the foot there.
Oh no,
just the foot for now.
It's the foot.
Finally, the Luftwaffe sent one massive all-out attack on London, and the RAF successfully repelled it, destroying many of the German aircraft and placing air superiority firmly in British hands.
Atla Britain.
Hitler's invasion had to be postponed, but the bombing of British cities continued for some time.
What's Ireland doing in this situation? The Republic of Ireland is big chilling, right? I mean, they probably don't want to join the war on the side of Britain. I can imagine they would not want to do that. But they're just chilling there like, we're just gonna stay out of it. And Spain, the whole time too, Spain's just like, you know what, we're just gonna stay out of this too. I wonder what happens on the next episode. Do you guys think Germany's gonna win?
This video was made possible by Skillshare, an online learning community.
Why is the captions
like
like
of the video to learn how you can get an exclusive deal just for Oversimplified viewers?
Why are my captions Albanian?
So what else is happening? Well, when I said Britain was all alone, that wasn't entirely true. Many Commonwealth nations and other allied colonies had joined the war in Britain's support. They would play a key role throughout the war, particularly in the African and Italian campaigns. On the Axis side, Germany, Italy, and Japan signed the defensive tripartite pact, bringing their military alliance even
Like how Canada's just like chilling on the end there. Canada did some good work. Canada and Australia did some good work during World War II too. Like they were going crazy with it.
Together. The Soviet Union's war against Finland should have been an easy victory, but it became a humiliating struggle, and their military aptitude was put on full display.
Let's go, Finland!
In the end, they did force the Finns to sue for peace. Then, they continued their honorable campaign of pushing around much smaller countries by annexing the Baltic states and part of northern Romania. France's colonies in equatorial Africa were like, heck no, we aren't going to join the Germans, and they all pledged their allegiance to free France, except for Gabon, which had to be taken by military force. The Allies also tried to capture the strategic port of Dakar, but that ended in failure. Mussolini had seen Hitler's successes, and he thought now it was Italy's time to shine, so
all right, it's time to bring the Roman Empire back, guys. We're going to get the Roman Empire back. It's going to be sick. We're going to get the whole gang back together. Oh, man, I can't wait. We're going to have emperors again.
He tried to take British Somaliland, and that went pretty well. Then he tried to take Egypt, and that went less well. Then he tried to take Greece, and that went really badly. Churchill began referring to Italy as Europe's soft underbelly.
Yeah, it's tough. Italy tried so much. They were trying so hard. You know, when it came to try them, they were definitely ones that did it.
He began favoring a military campaign from the south and started sending British troops to Greece. All of this had Hitler pretty concerned, and he moved to protect his southern flank. He had been getting friendly with Hungary and twisted their arm into signing the Tripartite Pact and joining the Axis powers. Romania was also eager to join for protection against the Soviet Union.
Romania is going to do one thing in this war too.
The Tripartite Pact was designed to prevent any other countries from deciding to join the Allies, specifically Britain's old ally, the pesky United States of America.
Who, up to this point, is just kind of big chilling, you know, sending some supplies over, just kind of witnessing what's going on. They don't want to join, obviously, because war equals bad.
Broke out. American public opinion was strongly against joining in. In 1940, there was an election. The Republican candidate said, I will not send any young Americans to die in Europe. And sitting President Franklin D. Roosevelt said, I will also not send any young Americans to die in Europe. Unless I have to, then I might. And Roosevelt won. Churchill asked him to join the war.
Didn't Roosevelt have like 60,000 terms?
Roosevelt said, no can do, Winston. But you know what? Here, have some weapons. America began supplying the Allies with food.
Meanwhile, Churchill's sweating there, just like downing gallons of his favorite drink at that moment. Just sweating, begging Roosevelt, please, dude, please, we need you. Come on. We need you in this war. Dude, we're look at the map, man. It's so red right now. We're getting buggered.
Munitions. But there was one problem. German U-boats were sinking thousands of Allied supply ships in the Atlantic.
Oh man, don't do that.
If the Germans could sever Britain's supply line, the UK would starve. Throughout the war, the Allies had to come up with better technology to fight the U-boats. Improved radar, aircraft with longer range, better weaponry and convoy tactics. At one point, a man even called a meeting and said, Pikecrete. You take some wood, you take some ice, you put them together, you get Pikecrete. And then he pulled out a gun and shot some wood and it shattered. And then he shot some Pikecrete and the bullet ricocheted off it and hit someone else in the conference room.
What if it melts? Because it's frozen.
Then they tried to make a Pikecrete aircraft carrier, but that idea was scrapped.
What?
Because that's a really dumb idea.
An aircraft carrier? Okay, dude.
In the end, Alan Turing and his team of codebreakers.
Turing, I am so sad whenever I hear the name Alan Turing. He was done so badly by the British government. So badly because he was, I think, allegedly, it was thought that he was gay and he was treated so bad. I'm pretty sure he got like chemically castrated. The whole thing, the whole shebang was just terrible because he did so much. He did so much. He was so smart. He did such good work. And because it's like, oh, ew, but gay though, so we're going to treat you like shit.
Cracked Germany's Enigma code, and the U-boats gradually became less and less of a threat. Back in Africa, Britain decided to push Italy out of Egypt. Hey, that was pretty easy. So they kept going. Hitler realized he was going to have to finally step in and do something. He went to Bulgaria and Yugoslavia and said, hey, I'm going to move troops.
It's like when you have one of the like ally NPCs in a video game and you just want to see if they're actually capable of killing one enemy. And they sit there and they like shoot at an enemy for like 5 years, like, come on, let's go. I'm taking him down. Yeah, let's go. Hey, watch out. Let's go. Yeah, score one kill. And he's like just shooting the same enemy for about 15 minutes. He's just not killed any of them.
For you to get to Greece. So either join us or, you know, be invaded. Bulgaria opted to join them. Yugoslavia opted to be invaded. Then Greece finally fell to the joint German.
One invasion, please.
Italian invasion. The British had moved troops from North Africa to fight in Greece, which helped Rommel and his tank divisions push the British back to Egypt. And they could have kept going, but a small, mostly Australian force held out under siege for 8 months in denying the Germans a strategic port city and disrupting their supply line.
Let's go, Australia. Absolute fucking legends, mate. Holding out for 8 fucking months.
Despite having some success in the Middle East, the British didn't seem like any real threat for now. Hey, Soviet Union, look out.
Oh man, this was the biggest mistake that Germany made. Straight up. What were they thinking? Why? They didn't need to do this. Not that I'm complaining. It's great that they did that because it made them lose so ridiculously hard. They got absolutely dumpstered and dumpstered a few years later. What were they thinking in this situation? Biggest mistake. Glad they made it. Great that they made it. But what a stupid fucking thing this was. They're like, ooh, we need some oil. Ooh, we need oil so bad. Come on, please. I assume they couldn't have just done a little trade agreement. Maybe gone to Russia and be like, hey, we can, you know how we were like besties? Can we have some oil now, please? Come on, please. I need some oil. They thought the Russians would just fall apart like they did last time. Dumb idiots.
3 million troops, Hitler launched the largest ground invasion in history, and Stalin was far from ready. Both Churchill and Roosevelt had warned him of an impending attack, but he dug.
I guess in hindsight, it is dumb, right? In hindsight, because it looked like they would fall apart. And toward the start of the invasion, they were falling apart. Like, they really struggled toward the start of the invasion. But when they got together, when they really got kicking, when the Red Army got into gear, man, they got absolutely slobberknocked.
His head in the sand, and the Soviets didn't stand a chance. Germany made staggering progress, with huge encircling movements capturing mind-boggling numbers of Russian troops.
I can't believe they didn't even just like finish the war with the UK first, so they could truly focus. I mean, the UK wasn't really a threat, right? The UK wasn't a massive threat, but having that lingering at one point, the hubris. It's just hubris. Why would you not make 100% sure that you're in the best possible position before you even do something as stupid as this? The hubris.
250,000 at Bialystok, Minsk, 300,000 at Smolensk, nearly 700,000 at Kiev, and again at Vyazma and Bryansk. Lenin.
Isn't it crazy that all of these people were captured? Like millions of people captured. And it's just the tiniest percentage of their overall manpower.
Leningrad was put under a siege that would last an insufferable 4 years. The invasion of Russia had been Hitler's main ideological goal from the beginning, and his hatred for the ethnic peoples there was now unleashed in all its fury. The Eastern
It's almost like racism is bad and will not make you make good decisions.
front of the Second World War was brutal for all that endured it. The Germans were now inside of Moscow, and that's it. It's all over. But then it happened. It got cold. Stupid cold. Hitler.
They didn't invade during the winter either. They invaded like way before the winter. They thought they were going to knock them out before the winter came. They did not.
Had hoped the Soviets would give up before winter, but they kept fighting. His commanders came to him and said, "Can we please dig in for the winter and wait until spring?" "No. Keep going. But oil is literally freezing inside our vehicles." "That's fine. Keep going. We're having to leave the corpses of our frozen horses by the side of the road so we can still find our way in the snowdrift." "Perfectly normal. Keep going." Hitler hadn't given his millions of men winter clothing and supplies because he thought he really should have won by now. Then Stalin...
The hubris! Again, I mean, let's not pretend like he was ever a good commander. He was not good at this shit.
Called in troops from the Siberian front, specially trained to fight in the extreme cold, and the Germans were no match. They were now being pushed back. They had no choice but to dig in and wait for winter to end. Germany's victories were staggering, and Japan was eager not to miss the victory bus. Their war in China had come to a standstill, but they wanted to keep expanding their sphere of influence and getting those sweet, sweet raw materials. They began making plans to expand southward, but there was a problem. Southeast Asia was heavily colonized by America and Great Britain.
It is almost like weird to me to hear that Southeast Asia was colonized by America. It sounds strange.
It was also full of ocean. Ocean meant naval combat, and there was no way the Japanese Navy could stand up to the US and the UK. So
well. They thought, ooh, what if we knock them out super quick? What if we just like take out America before they have a chance to really mobilize? Surely that will work, right?
They thought, wouldn't it be nice if we could destroy their navies before we begin our conquest?
Yeah.
And so it was. On December 7th, 1941, the Japanese launched a surprise air raid on the U.S. Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor. And
massive mistake number 2.
A huge amount of damage. They also attacked British colonies in Southeast Asia. Roosevelt had no choice but to declare war on Japan, and so did Churchill. Hitler then declared war on America,
Dude, I mean, it was going to happen, right? It was going to happen regardless, since America joined the war against Japan. Like, eventually, they're probably going to join the war against Germany too, just because they're so closely aligned, they're allies and all that. But man, that was fucking dumb, wasn't it?
Even though he totally didn't have to. The attack on Pearl Harbor seemed like a big Japanese victory, but they...
Wait, what does that say? Hold on. I wonder if I can read that. Banzai. Oh, it says Banzai. Okay. It's like the shout from Call of Duty World at War when they charge it with the bayonets out.
Victory. But they didn't attack any of the naval repair yards, fuel storage tanks, or the submarine base, meaning...
Are you morons? What was all that about?
The Pacific Fleet would be up and running again pretty soon. In the meantime, though, the Japanese were able to begin their conquest. They took Guam, the Gilbert Islands, Wake Island, Hong Kong, and the Philippines.
Damn, they really blitzed this as well.
Forced Thailand to join them so they could march their troops through to Malaya. They swept through Singapore, North Borneo, the East Indies, New Guinea, the Solomons, and they were now threatening northern Australia and the borders of India.
Damn, they went really quick. They were quick on the ball with it. They were really serious about this. We want to get everything
Japan's
thing.
victory had been as staggering as the Germans, and it reinforced the Japanese idea that this was a divine war which they were destined to win. But their victories had been based on speed, not power, and power would eventually catch up
Oh, I've also watched Oppenheimer.
with them.
Oh
For now,
boy,
though,
here we
in
go.
all occupied nations, the people suffered. Persecution, forced labor, harsh punishments for any who spoke out against their occupiers. In Europe, the Nazis were rounding up ethnic minorities and other unwanted groups and individuals. In particular, millions of Jewish people would suffer through the terrible events of the Holocaust.
It's insane to me that we're already forgetting that this happened. Or not even forgetting, we're just outright didn't, not we, but like people are becoming more and more comfortable with the idea of just like denying it or saying that it wasn't that bad. It's crazy because the generation that fought in this war are dying off. They're going to be gone soon, which is very sad because the only people that were there to witness it are going to be gone soon. And as soon as the generation is gone, as soon as there's no one around to like slap you back in and be like, listen, bitch, I was there. I saw it happen. Everyone just starts being like, oh, well, what if it didn't? Like, it seems like a far off fairy tale. It seems more like a tale than something that actually happened. And we can instantly forget, even though we have mobile device and Wikipedia that you can use to go and look it up. People still instantly forget. They're like, oh, well, I mean, it probably wasn't that bad. People start saying that, and it's infuriating.
Brave resistance movements rose up in defiance of their invaders, while the people held out for hope. And hope was coming.
And France did resist. For the longest time, the French resistance was strong and it was ongoing. And again, this is a British person saying this too.
Winter was over, and Hitler could continue his push eastward. But this time, he switched up his strategy. He wanted to focus on the south. His plan was to cut off the Russian armies in the Caucasus, an area full of oil, and then invade the Caucasus and take all the oil. His forces moved across the north with ease, and Hitler got cocky. He rerouted the 4th Panzer Army south early, leaving the 6th Army to complete the encircling movement alone. To do so, the 6th Army had to reach and take the key Soviet city of Stalingrad.
Oh boy, and isn't this one of those brutal battles from any war? Maybe the most brutal battle in a war ever, the Battle of Stalingrad. Dude, this was crazy. I actually watch a YouTube channel. This is separate to Oversimplified, but I think it's a really, really, really good YouTube channel. I think it's just is it just called World War II? Yeah, it's just called World War II. And it goes week by week, and it tells you all the things that happened in every single week of the war, and like the mobilizations of the armies and the casualties and what everyone was doing, what everyone was thinking, just everything that happened. And it goes over every single thing week by week. It's the most comprehensive guide to World War II that I think I've ever seen in my entire life. It's a great YouTube channel. Would highly recommend it for anyone that's curious about history. And the time that they were going over Stalingrad, it seemed unreal to me that such a thing could happen in a city.
Defended it fiercely, and Stalingrad saw some of the harshest fighting of the entire war. The Soviets held up the German advance for 5 months as they battled in the war-torn city, which...
I mean, just look at this. It's just gone. It's just leveled. This kind of thing is happening it's that kind of thing is happening now. Like places in Ukraine, Gaza is getting reduced to rubble. Ukraine is getting cities reduced to rubble. The fact that even though we see all this happening, we're just like, let's fucking do it again. Why are we so dumb? We're so dumb. We're so dumb. My great grandfather was in World War II. Yeah, my great granddad, my grand's dad was in the British Navy during World War II and served on one of the boats.
Bought them valuable time. When the Germans had first launched their invasion a year earlier, the Soviets had moved their factories to the east. Those factories had been building a butt-ton of tanks and aircraft and getting the Soviet army up to scratch. Now, it was ready. Stalin gathered his new and improved forces around the city, and in an attack that resembled Hitler's own encirclement tactics, they began surrounding the 6th Army. Hitler's commanders came to him and said, "Hey, maybe we should retreat." But Hitler said, "No, you stay."
So to explain this in Pokemon terms for anyone that just watches Pokemon videos and they don't know about the real world, this is like if you get hit with a lot of damage in Pokemon and then you use counter and you do twice as much damage back. That's what's oh boy, let's just go. Yeah,
the entire 6th Army was trapped and had to surrender. With complete air superiority, the Soviets started pushing westward. For Stalin, it was a resounding victory. For Hitler, an absolute catastrophe. Things also weren't looking too good for Hitler elsewhere. With America now in the war, Allied bombing over German cities reached devastating levels. In Africa, the British had pushed Rommel back again. Then they were pushed back again, and finally, after a decisive battle at El Alamein, and with American and British troops arriving in the west, the Germans and Italians were squeezed out of Africa.
The map just turning completely blue like that is insane. Like, it's so much land, but relatively, there's not as many people that lives on this land, and it's completely colonized. The poor local people, they don't need any of this. No one deserves any of this. But man, there's probably like local people that's like, what the fuck is going on, man? There's tanks everywhere, dude. What's going on? I just want to live.
Africa. Japan was also already seeing its rapid success being turned around. They attempted to take the island of Midway, but the US Navy was ready for the attack, and they sank Japan's carrier. Actually, they sank a lot of them. It was a battle from which the Japanese Navy would never recover. British, Indian, and Chinese troops held the line in the harsh jungle terrain of Burma, and the Japanese suffered losses in the Solomon Islands and New Guinea.
Wasn't I was just thinking about that, the 4 carriers going down. Was that the battle in which this very big Japanese admiral who was doing all the victories from the Japanese Navy had come from this, like, one, not just one guy, but a lot of them had come from one admiral. And since his carriers got sunk, he's just like, I'm going down with the ship, baby. Like, I'm going down with it. They lost like this really great leader, and he went down with the ship because he felt like he'd failed so much. And then, like, they started to lose after that.
They began to realize they were not invincible. With the Axis out of Africa, the Allies had to decide their next move. Churchill still wanted to attack from the south, while the Americans preferred a full sea invasion.
Yamamoto, that's him. That's the guy. I'd heard about Yamamoto like a lot. Pretty sure this guy, he was at one point like, guys, maybe we should like stop attacking so much. We should like stop the war. We should like stop, like, this is probably not a very good idea anymore because we're probably gonna lose. We're like, this is not good. And then they kept telling him to go back out and fight. And eventually he just went down with the ship, right? Oh yeah, the US Army was like specifically trying to kill him because he was such a big deal in the Japanese Navy. Oh, he was in an aircraft. Oh no, he didn't go down with a ship. They canceled the trip out of fear of ambush. And then he was in an aircraft. They engaged transports and they just took him down. Damn. There's something to be said about a Navy admiral that dies in an aircraft. It seems a bit weird for that to happen.
In northern France. All right, said the Americans.
Yeah, he wasn't on a ship, that's right.
We'll do it your way. Allied forces successfully landed in Sicily and began moving north. They also carried out bombing raids over Rome. The thing was, many of the people in Sicily had relatives living in America, and they greeted the American troops quite warmly. With the war reaching home territory...
Hey, that's what the Italian immigration to America will get you.
Most Italians just weren't that into it, and Mussolini was suddenly very unpopular. He was voted out by his own fascist grand.
Why would the Italians even want to be in the war in the first place? Like, they have no stake, they have no dog in this fight to begin with. They're just like they're forced to be in it because some bald man said that they have to.
And was toppled from power. Italy immediately began negotiations for surrender. Hitler wasn't surprised and had already sent reinforcements southward. In an operation he ironically called Operation Axis, German troops quickly disarmed Italian troops in the north. The Allies continued fighting the Germans up through Italy, but then winter set in, meaning mud, and everything slowed to a halt. All right, said the Americans, let's do it our way as well. Germany had made itself a lot of enemies, and
oh my God, Jesus Christ. The Free Dutch forces, the Free Czechoslovak forces, the Free Greek forces, damn, all against Germany. I mean, Germany had a lot of power at that point, but you see this alignment against you, you know it's not going to go so good.
Millions of Allied troops had been gathered.
Unless you're like Vietnam, in which case Vietnam just like destroys.
In England, as factories worked around the clock producing the war material needed for a super crazy massive, the likes of which the world has never seen before, invasion of Europe. The Germans knew an Allied invasion would come, but they didn't know where it would land. Thanks to Allied deception tactics, they thought there was a pretty good chance it would come at Calais. But the Allies were really going to land in Normandy because it was less fortified and the beaches were nicer. Under the careful
look at those gorgeous beaches.
General Dwight D. Eisenhower, the invasion that had been long in the making was just about ready to go. Just one thing was preventing the launch: the British weather. For a short while, everyone sat
a tale as old as time. The British weather stopping the British from doing so.
Waiting for a decent day. And then it came. On the night of June 5th, over 1,000 bombers took off and raided coastline defenses, while paratroopers were dropped inland in a bit of a chaotic operation, tasked with sabotaging defenses and capturing key bridges to stop any German reinforcements from reaching the beaches. Early the next morning, the barrage came, as Allied ships...
D-Day is one of my favorite days to learn about just in the history of like any war. Like that single day. Obviously, it came with months of planning and months of fighting after that. But I'm not sure if a single day has been more important in the history of any war. It feels like such a big thing. I don't know, it's just because I'm British and maybe it's the way that we get education on history in the UK. It just seemed like such a big deal.
Fired a huge number of shells at the German fortifications. And then the landings. The Americans at Utah and Omaha.
I can't imagine how scary it would be to be in one of those boats as well. I mean, listen, the closest I've been is I watched Saving Private Ryan once. I'm pretty brave, yeah, I know. But I can't imagine how scary it would have been to charge the beaches against the fortifications.
The British at Golden Sword and the Canadians at Juno. It was a tremendous struggle with a great loss of life, particularly at Omaha.
And just look at the scale of this. Could you imagine seeing something like this in real life? It's unfathomable. Just on a beach, like a regular beach that you go to for your sunny day out, and it's completely overtaken with tanks and trucks and soldiers and massive boats and transports and those little balloon things.
Omaha. But the Allied troops captured the beaches and the landings were a success. Then they began their movements inland. They took the port of Cherbourg and the city of Caen. The Americans moved south to capture Brittany. Then, in a massive disaster for the Germans, British and Canadian troops from the north and Americans from the south trapped the German 7th Army in a near wipeout encircling movement. In August, Allied troops landed in the south of France to little resistance. On one beach, all they found was a Frenchman handing out champagne. Paris was liberated and the Germans were pushed out of France as the Allies entered Belgium. In the Far East, the Allies started to push the Japanese out of Burma, as the Americans launched a two-pronged offensive in the Pacific. In the South, General MacArthur led the push to liberate the Philippines.
Yeah, so at this point, the Axis are like, ooh, guys, things don't seem to be going as hot anymore. I don't know if we can, I don't know if we can do this. Of course, like, the delusional people at the top are still like, nah, dude, we can win. We can totally win. It's not... Let me just huff my copium real quick.
General Nimitz oversaw the brutal island-hopping campaign. American forces had to make hard-fought landing after hard-fought landing on fiercely defended small islands as they moved.
I watched The Pacific. It's one of the greatest shows of all time. I think it's so good. But man, those fights looked fucking awful.
Steadily towards the Japanese mainland. The Japanese believed that the greatest thing a person could do was to die in battle, and the most dishonorable act was to surrender. As a result, they fought ferociously to the very end. And the closer the Americans got to the mainland, the more ferocious the resistance became. In February 1945, the Americans captured the island of Iwo Jima, and an intense...
There was even a guy just living on an island that very recently was found, and he thought that World War II was still going. He thought they were still like fighting the Americans.
Firebombing campaign of Japan's wooden cities began. The Allies suffered some setbacks trying to liberate the Netherlands, but they were making progress and were now threatening the industrial heartland of Germany. Hitler's health, both mentally and physically, was rapidly deteriorating.
He was losing it.
He was desperate. He said, "We need to turn this thing around, and I have just the trick. Remember a few years back when we blitzkrieged through the Ardennes and trapped the Allied forces in Belgium? Well, I'm going to do the exact same thing. Again."
And it'll work.
He gathered his forces and tried to pound them through the Ardennes. He used up the remainder of Germany's strength and resources, and he managed to create quite a nice bulge. He also trapped some American forces in the Belgian town of Bastogne. The Germans sent the trapped Americans a message saying surrender or be annihilated.
Oh, it was the 70s. Still, like, 30 years after the war had ended.
When it was read out to the commanding officer, he said, "They want to surrender? No, sir, they want us to surrender." Nuts! And that's what they sent off as their official reply. General Patton's Third Army then managed to break the siege from the southwest, and the Germans were pushed back. Hitler's last-ditch attempt had failed, and what followed was a...
See, stuff like this really makes me appreciate the Americans' involvement in the war. I just wish they weren't so fucking annoying about it now. Like, yeah, okay, dude. What, right, are we really gonna say, oh, we saved you? I wasn't in the war, you went in the war. Let's stop role-playing, okay? Let's not role-play. This is like saying that, oh, we need to win this match when you're watching someone play football. What's this we? What is this? What does we mean? What did you do? You didn't contribute towards that. It was the people of the last generation. You didn't do that. You didn't contribute in any way to that. Anyway, the old Americans that did that were awesome. They were great. But don't start with the we.
Total collapse of the German forces. The Allies pushed into Germany from both sides. The Soviet Union took Warsaw and kept pushing to Berlin. In his bunker, Hitler realized all hope was lost. Berlin fell, and with it, Hitler's dreams of a great German empire. 2 of the Axis nations had been knocked out. 1 to go. The Americans began their assault on Okinawa, the last island before they would reach the Japanese mainland. The desperate Japanese fought hard, launching kamikaze attacks on the US ships. The citizens of Okinawa suffered through the terrible fighting, but in 2 months, the island was captured. The Allies now had to make a choice. Either continue the devastating struggle up the Japanese mainland, or they could try to coerce the Japanese into surrendering now. In July, the first successful atomic bomb test took place in New Mexico, and the destructive weapon was ready for use. America and the UK...
Yes, this is the Oppenheimer for all of you moviegoers.
We're also seeing the Soviet Union not so much liberating as occupying its captured territories. And so they wanted to put on a show of force. On August 6th, the A-bomb fell on Hiroshima. Then, on the 9th, Nagasaki.
Yeah.
The cities were reduced to rubble, and for the people living there, it was a terrible fate. But for the Allies, it achieved their main aim. In September, the Emperor announced Japan's surrender, saying the war situation has developed not necessarily to Japan's advantage.
That is a crazy way to put it. I mean, I know the Japanese like to keep things a little bit low-key when they talk about that, but man, that is quite a way to say it. You're
After
right.
6 years,
Jeez.
war was finally over. The Allies occupied Japan for 8 years. The Emperor was allowed to keep his position, but General MacArthur made sure this picture was printed in the Japanese press to
Jeez. You think General MacArthur is... Look at him. He's so tall.
Displayed to the Japanese people that their emperor was not the divine, powerful being they had believed. Germany was divided between America, the UK, France, and the Soviet Union. In 1949, the Allied sectors were united into West Germany. The Second World War had been more terrible and destructive than the
50 to 80 million killed, and most of it was in Russia, or most of it was in the Soviet Union.
first. In its aftermath, two major superpowers with two very different ideologies had come out victorious, and the tension between the two of them would create a new kind of war.
Raggy.
A very, very cold one.
A Cold War?
Wow.
Oh, God. Look at that.
That
Wow.
looks just like me. And your app is doing really well.
Oh my goodness. Well, go and get screen share. I don't even know if this link works anymore. I would imagine that it doesn't. Oh yeah, the link doesn't even work anymore. Well, regardless, you should definitely go and watch Oversimplified's new series on the Second Punic War because it is fantastic and amazing, and you should definitely watch it. And if you want to see more of my dumb face, you can always subscribe to this channel as well.